I'm Andy Mellon, Superintendent, Greater Clark County Schools, and along with me today is Tammy Hatfield, who works with Ford and is part of the Ford NGL team. And so I'm very honored to have Tammy here with us today, and of course we'll be ready to answer whatever questions you may have. But a statement first, we were approached in the fall of 2015 by representatives of Ford Next Generation Learning to have the district consider joining its network. Ford Motor Company funds Ford Next Generation Learning, which is a unique and comprehensive community initiative that brings together educators, employers, and community leaders to implement a proven model for transforming secondary schools, which ultimately improves the regional workforce development system. Ford NGL is currently working with over 30 communities throughout the country. One of its model sites is in Nashville, Tennessee. Ford NGL has played a pivotal role in the tremendous success Nashville has experienced over the past decade. After 2 informal meetings with Ford NGL national representatives, a meeting was held with school and community leaders on January 20th, where the national representatives had a chance to provide an overview of the Ford NGL initiative. 2 teams of Greater Clark representatives have also visited Nashville to observe Ford NGL implementation. On April 4th, Ford NGL's top coach out of Nashville visited Greater Clark and toured both Jeffersonville High School and Charlestown High School, met with 60 school and community leaders, and finished the day by meeting with the building leadership teams from all 3 of our high schools. As a follow-up, a short open-ended survey was made available to school and community leaders and building leadership team members. Responses were overwhelmingly encouraging in terms of pursuing Ford NGL implementation. On April 9th, the coach out of Nashville provided a report on the readiness of Greater Clark to pursue Ford NGL implementation, and the report indicated that Greater Clark needed to complete a few steps in Phase 2, which is an envision phase, and also begin Phase 3, which is the master planning phase. In addition, as part of the Ford NGL implementation, all 3 high schools have committed to implementing a freshman academy model for next school year. There is a $59,500 consultation and technical assistance fee in order for us to be part of this process. From a professional development perspective, teachers in our school system, all teachers will be trained in both effective teaming and also project-based learning over the course of the next couple of years. Joining the Ford NGL network is a tremendous opportunity that will enable Greater Clark to evolve its successful college and career readiness initiative by creating sustainable systems of community engagement and secondary school transformation. A major transformational focus is the development of a career academy model that will increase relevancy for students and better prepare all students for post-secondary opportunities by creating direct pathways to regional colleges, universities, and businesses. So at this point in time, hopefully that gives some background to what we're trying to get accomplished, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. Yes, the Freshman Academy model is really helping all freshmen who enter high school make that transition more smooth for them and make sure they're more successful. That's a huge transition, as most of us can remember, when we move from that 8th to 9th grade level, and we want to make sure that we put kids into teams with teachers that will get to know them on a very individual level and identify strengths and areas for improvement, and to design interventions to help every freshman become more comfortable and be able to achieve academically at higher levels, and really begin that career exploratory phase where they're identifying potential career interests. We call it what's best fits. Best fits for all of our students. Our mission of our corporation is all students will graduate accepted to a post-secondary opportunity. And so that Freshman Academy will be an essential starting point to help those students identify that best fit for them and make sure their high school career is very relevant and they're tied to post-secondary opportunities. Yes, all freshmen. So all 3 of our high schools, We generally have between 700 and 800 freshmen every year in our 3 high schools, and that was something that we thought was very important. What makes Greater Clark special in my mind is that we're a very diverse school corporation. We have urban, suburban, Jeffersonville, we have small town, Charlestown, and we have rural New Washington. And I think that's a great thing. It's something that we very much appreciate. There are also challenges with all of those different demographics. And so the key factor is, as we are implementing this initiative, Ford NGL, we believe that it can greatly benefit all 3 high schools, and we want all 3 high schools to take full advantage of that opportunity.
I think you should explain a little bit more about the professional development for the staff.
Yes, thank you. From a professional development perspective, you know, teachers are the front lines of this initiative. They're dealing with our students on a daily basis. It's their primary objective to make sure every student that they're in contact with succeeds. And so in order for us to make sure this is a successful implementation, we have teaming that's set up in all of our schools. It's called a period 0. But what we need to do is make sure that our teachers can more effectively work together. And so the training that they'll receive will come from trainers out of Nashville. Nashville, as most people know, is a highly successful community. They have grown leaps and bounds. They have business engagement, involvement that is off the charts. And so we're going to have teachers and administrators out of Nashville actually coming up and training our teachers and our administrators and our staff. So it's a very successful model, and so we want to make sure our teachers are comfortable, not only from the teaming perspective, but I also believe that project-based learning is an essential part of this. Getting kids more directly involved, more hands-on, researching, reading, writing, presenting, looking at real-life problems that are out in the community. I think that's very essential because it increases the relevancy to students. A lot of times in school we would ask ourselves the question, why do we need to know this? We want to lessen that. We want that question. We want kids to see that it's important for me to know these things because I can directly tie it to a real-life application. And so it's essential that our teachers become extremely proficient in their project-based learning, implementation, and teaming together. And we promised our teachers that we'd do everything in our power to make sure that they receive the training they needed to be very comfortable with this. And it's going to take us, you know, we have 700 teachers, and we have about 60 administrators. And we're going to have to get all of those people trained over the course of the next couple of years. So it's going to be a daunting task, but one that we're looking forward to.
When you talk about teaming, is that increased collaboration between teachers, or is that something different?
Yes, no, thank you. When we talk about teaming, it's a matter of looking at, take a group of freshmen, maybe you'd have 125 freshmen that would be with a team of 5 teachers. And those teachers would come from English, math, science, a careers class, and probably physical education at the freshman level. And so now those 5 teachers, along with some other support individuals, a counselor, an administrator, they'd meet on a regular basis, at least weekly, to sit down and talk about what's happening with the students within their team. What's going on at home? Why isn't Johnny or Sally learning? If it's something related to an area that we could provide more support from a counseling perspective or administrative perspective, we want to do that. If it's, hey, we need to give them more support with their reading, writing, math, then how are we going to do that? So it's really making a large high school like a small learning community and trying to make sure the rapport is built between our staff and our kids so that kids will take more ownership in their own learning.
When will the students and staff start seeing this implemented?
The Freshman Academy will be implemented next school year. We've already had our teams begin that process of planning. We also have Ford NGL representatives out of Nashville coming up on June 9th and 10th to work with our teams to make sure that, we are going to implement it with fidelity. So they'll be coming up June 9th and 10th. So we've already begun that process and that commitment, at least from the Freshman Academy perspective for next year. Then the big part of next year for Ford NGL really is a master planning phase. And that's where we get a lot of community members engaged in this process, because this is a community-based initiative. We have nearly 80 community leaders involved in a college and career advisory that we've had established for a couple of years. So we've already done some of this preliminary work, but now we have to take it to another level, and that's what Ford NGL will help us do, so that we have a more specific and a more focused approach to ultimately make sure that our kids are ready to help and benefit our community.
Any timetable to have it fully implemented?
The hope and the plan would be that there would be full implementation, meaning this whole academy model for our 10th graders through 12th graders. Our hope would be that we'd have something ready to be put in place for the 17-18 school year.
Do you anticipate needing to add any teachers to implement the freshman academy?
Here's what's interesting. Our teachers at our schools, they've all sort of volunteered to be part of this process. I told our principals if they wanted to implement Freshman Academy next year, it had to come out of the buildings. Because usually you would do a year of master planning and then you would implement the Freshman Academies the following year. But two of our principals went to Nashville and they saw what the Freshman Academy model was doing for students in Nashville. And so when our principals and assistant principals, we had an assistant principal go as well from Jeffersonville High School, they came back and said, this is something that we think that would be outstanding. And so they started to work with their teachers in their buildings and to identify the teachers who would be part of that Freshman Academy model. And so at our board meeting, when I made the recommendation to move forward, it was our principals and teachers from all three of our high schools that made that recommendation. And so to me, that was great, because that's ownership that's coming directly on the grassroots level. I'd like to have Tammy be able to just speak for a minute, if you don't mind, because I'll tell you, this would not have happened without, in my opinion, Tammy Hatfield. Tammy works for Ford in Louisville, but she's been a huge part of our college and career advisory pretty much since its inception. And Tammy saw all the great work that we were doing with our college and career readiness initiative, and I think that when her connection as part of the Ford NGL team, she saw that we might be a good candidate, and maybe if Tammy, you wouldn't mind speaking to that, I would greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. As Dr. Mellon said, I serve on the College and Career Readiness Board at Greater Clark County, and I've worked at Ford Motor Company locally for 22 years, and I became involved with Ford NGL with Jefferson County. And as I saw what Greater Clark was doing and all the great things that they were doing within the community, and they had so many business leaders on board, I knew that this would be a perfect fit for Ford NGL and Greater Clark. As he mentioned, Ford Next Generation Learning is a nonprofit arm of Ford Motor Company. Henry Ford has been involved in education since the beginning of the century, when he didn't have qualified workers. So he started his own programs with the Henry Ford Institute. And there's hundreds of programs he's funded, United States and abroad as well. So we're excited to work with them because they've already got a great program in place. But now with over our 30 networks, we can make those connections with Greater Clark to take everything to the next level, to develop these career path academies, problem-based learning, as he said, and bringing the community involved for all of us to benefit in the long run for future workers within our region.
Can you maybe explain how the things that are going to be happening in Greater Clark will better align the district with college and career readiness?
At its basic level, great things are happening in this area. not just in southern Indiana, but in the metropolitan Louisville area. And the Greater Clark County Schools is part of the metropolitan Louisville area. And so our vision is I believe we are the foundation of talent development in this region. Our school system, K-12, it starts with us. We are the key. That's my opinion. And so we've established over 350 formalized business partnerships in the last 2 years. And what that says is businesses understand the valuable role that we can play to help produce the talent that they need for all the jobs. About 40,000 more jobs are expected to come to this area within the next 5 to 10 years. And we don't have enough people in this area to fill all those jobs. So what we need to do is maximize that supply by making sure our students understand all the opportunities. We had 83 students this year do internships with area companies, many of them paid internships. And many of those students are staying with those companies beyond the internship because they've proven that they are quality employees. Now those students may go and continue their college education or their advanced education or training, and a lot of those companies are paying for that. What a great opportunity for our parents. Now all of a sudden you have a child that has been connected directly to business, can go ahead and get further education or training paid for by our companies here locally, and now families don't incur tens of thousands of dollars of debt, which is a major problem in our country today. So we think that we're looking at big picture. We're producing tomorrow's workforce. I prefer to call it as talent development. We are developing the talent for tomorrow. Whether that benefits the Ford Motor Companies of the world, the UPSs of the world, the Samtechs, Clark Memorial Hospital, Amatrol, we're here to make sure that we are doing everything in our power to keep our kids, our talent, here locally. They may have to go away from us to go to school to get the particular education they need, but we want those students to be connected to businesses here so that they either will stay here after high school or after they get whatever additional training or education they need elsewhere, they'll be connected and come back. We want to help benefit the quality of life in southern Indiana and in metropolitan Louisville, and our relationship with the Ford Next Generation Learning Network is going to help make that happen. It's exciting. To understand that we're one of less than 40 communities in the country that's part of the Ford Next Generation Learning Network is quite an honor. And we appreciate it, and we're going to take full advantage of it, and I think our entire area will benefit from our involvement.
Are there any other communities
No. We'll be I think that's the other exciting piece of it. It is our hope that we would become the model and for the state of Indiana, that hopefully we'll do a great job and we'll become a model site for Indiana and maybe for the country, because I think, and Tammy would be able to help more with this, but I think we may be one of the smallest communities in the Ford Next Generation Learning Network. If you think about Nashville, 87,000 students. We have 10,000, a little over 10,000 students. Now, I think what can happen is Ford NGL has seen that with the work that we've already accomplished, and now with what Ford NGL can provide, that now all of a sudden it opens up Ford NGL and its philosophy and its mission to school systems that are not large centers, educational centers around the country. So maybe we become a model, not just for Indiana, but maybe we become a model for other school systems of similar size around the country. And I think they see that as a potential opportunity with what we've been bringing to the table. Tammy, is that accurate?
So other than the freshman staffing model, are there any other big changes coming out of this partnership?
Right now, the other big plan, and I think this is vital, is the idea that next year we're going to be working on the development of a master plan, and we're going to be using all of our college and career advisory members. As I said, we have almost 80 community leaders representing all different sectors. And I think that if this is fully going to work, it just can't be about Greater Clark. It's got to be about our area and our region and all of the businesses and nonprofit organizations. That's what I love about this. So I think that moving forward is this master plan will involve all of the sectors of our community so everyone can own it and so we can maximize its success. And that will be a big part of what happens next year. The implementation of Freshman Academy is also extremely exciting because that's really where it gets started. And the other thing that's great is we've been doing this kind of college and career work at our middle school levels for the past 4 years. So our 6th graders through 8th graders have been highly engaged, and I think the Ford Next Generation Learning Network also sees the fact that we've already begun to carry that initiative down into the middle schools, and I think that the Ford Next Generation Learning Network, I think they see that as something that's also important as they evolve and move forward. So we're really making commitments, definitely grades 6 through 12, but Ford Next Generation Learning our initial focus will be 9 through 12.
Is there financial backing from Ford to help implement these programs?
That's what I think is interesting is that we, I think, have received some benefit from the fact that we've already been more prepared than a lot of other communities. So there are 5 phases of implementation, and we've pretty much completed almost the first 2 phases. And so the financial cost for coaching and consultation has been decreased because of all of our preliminary work we've done. So I think that I think we've benefited. Ford NGL has seen that, and I think they've reduced cost factors for coaching and technical assistance. But what I've promised our board is that any implementation cost for this, I would go out to our community and garner that financial support from our community. So there's a $59,500 cost that we currently have, and I've been out talking to different businesses and organizations who are expressing interest in supporting this initiative. And we had a great meeting yesterday. I think that the dollars are going to come in, and I was doing everything in our power to not have to use school district general fund dollars to pay for this initiative. I think I need to show our community, all of our staff and parents and so on, that our community fully endorses this. So I'm trying to get all the funds from community, businesses, and organizations to implement the process. Now, the cost to train our teachers, to me that's more of a school district responsibility, but I'm also looking at alternative ways to fund that training cost as well, so that we are not going into our general fund to pay for this implementation.
But you won't be getting anything from Ford?
At this point in time, I think we've received some in-kind contributions from Ford, and that may continue as we go down the road. I think that I think some in-kind consideration has been given to us from Ford in the Ford NGL network because of the work that we had already accomplished up to this point. And whether there's more down the road, there's been no commitment made to that at this point. But if we do a good job, you never know. I've always believed that it's our job to take it from the theoretical to apply it. And we've proven to our business community that we're the real deal. That when we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. And I think when they see that it becomes an investment, they appreciate what we're doing to help them, that all of a sudden the funding support will start to come in. It has already started. That's a great point. This summer, we're going to start by training 160 teachers. I think it's about a $40,000 price tag, and we have a grant that we had received through the state. So we're going to start training elementary, middle, and high school teachers, 160 of them this summer. So we are currently putting the budget together for how do we train our 700 plus people in the effective teaming and project-based learning. So we're putting that budget together, we're putting the timelines together, and we're working with Ford NGL out of Nashville because they're the ones providing all the training costs. So it's a large effort, The one thing we want to make sure we do, if it takes us a little bit longer to get everyone trained, that's fine, but we have to do it right. And I'm just looking forward to the ride. No pun intended with Ford Motor Company. Anything else or any other questions? We really appreciate you guys coming. Thank you. And we'll stay around if you have any.